Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's Business Spotlight. I think you're going to find this discussion very informative, especially if you're parents thinking about your kids' future education, college options. Tony DeRosa and his team at Class 101 really help parents navigate through kind of a very confusing, complicated world to find a great solution for their kids. So again, welcome to the Spotlight. I'm your host, Todd Rodden. I'm a certified business and executive coach. I'm an Aspire Action coach based here in Southwest Ohio. And we're thrilled to have Tony DeRosa, co-owner of Class 101, a college planning service firm here in the region, join us today. His wife founded the business about 7 years ago, and Tony jumped in, is now full-time. They're both deeply committed. So, Tony, welcome to the Spotlight series. Take a second, introduce yourself, and tell us a little bit more about Class 101.
Hi, Todd. Thank you. Thanks for having me. Appreciate the opportunity. Class 101 is a program for college planning. We provide college planning services for high school students and their families. We work with students from ninth grade through 12th grade through the entire college planning process. We're based here in Springboro. We've been here since 2018. As you said, my wife Karen and I are the full-time owners. We have a staff here as well. And we're just very lucky and fortunate to get to work with high school students as they're making that journey towards figuring out their future. We say college planning, although we will work with students, and we do work with students who may not be sure about whether they want to go to college. So it's more about helping students find their future, whether that's college, vocation, or whatever it might be.
So, how did you get involved in this line of education planning services? Why this field?
Sure. Most of that is around my wife, Karen. She has extensive experience working in education. She taught at college. She's taught at Sinclair and all the Miami campuses. She worked for a period of time as an administrator in the Springboro school system. And combined with that, we had always talked about owning a business. That was something that we had as a goal, and looked at different opportunities around that. She had done some consulting as well. So that was always something we wanted to do. Just kind of a confluence of events where we were getting more serious about that and learned about Class 101, which is a franchise, at the time was based in Lexington, Kentucky. So learned about that, met the owner, met the founder, and just became really excited about their mission and their approach towards that. We didn't want this to be something that could just put more guilt on parents, right? It was more about, hey, what we don't want that because we know parents already feel a lot about that and they already have a ton on their plate. For us, it was no, the message was we want to empower students to take ownership of this with the support of their families and with the support of us, so that they can take ownership and be empowered to figure out what they want to do and help them get there. That's how we started. Karen started on her own, and then I had started just doing the books, right, and taking care of the operation side of it. And then found myself in a position about a year and a half in where had been laid off from my job, and we said, okay, let's go for it. And it would have been January 2020 that I started full time, and we've been full time all in ever since.
So interesting. What is it you wish more people knew about your services?
Obviously, that we're here, and also that we do work with students as young as ninth grade. I mean, for us, really, the sweet spot in terms of if families are trying to determine when the right time is to work with us. For most students, I think it's 10th grade. And the reason for that is because for most students, that transition of freshman year of high school can be challenging. It's a big change. So
Mhm.
let's let the student adapt to that and go through that process. But then once they've done that, they can start thinking as they get into 10th grade, start thinking about their future, college or vocation or whatever that might be. And that's a good time to start talking to us. I think a lot of families, and for lots of reasons, right? We're all very busy. There's a lot going on, and raising kids today is tough. Uh, Raising high school students today is tough. And so a lot of times I think that gets put off till maybe either the beginning or even the halfway through junior year. it's not too late. We'll certainly be able to help those students and families, but it's rushed, it's compact in terms of a timeline. So I think for us, it would be if I could get more students and families to engage with us in that end of freshman year, beginning of sophomore year timeframe. I think that they would find that to make things a little bit easier and feel a less stress and anxiety, which is one of our goals, is we want to remove that stress and anxiety from our families in the college planning process.
No, great. I've lived this now a couple times, and
Yeah.
yeah, there's just so much. There's emotion. There's just so much to consider, right? As a parent, you're juggling, right, with a student who's still maturing, very much so, right?
Right, and changing their mind, right?
Right.
And that's something we encourage. We don't expect someone who's leaving high school to know what they want to do for the next 30 years.
Yeah.
And I certainly didn't when I was 17 or 18. I think most parents can relate to that. And I'm on my third career. And this didn't really exist when I was going to college. So we want to be able to have those conversations with the students, be able to help explore those paths with them in a way that doesn't feel rushed and compacted and stressed and things like that. So.
So in terms of how you approach, counseling students and parents, what do you think is unique about your approach?
I think a couple things. I think we cover it all in terms of everything that's involved in college planning. So we will help students and families with everything from helping them figure out their college list, and of course that will change, and we work with them through that, helping them explore majors and career paths, helping them with test prep, SAT, ACT. That's always front of mind, I think, for parents and students, helping them with figuring out their schedules in high school. Because especially as they come into the junior and senior year, there's a lot of choices, a lot of different options and things like that. And so we want to help them align their goals around college or their future with what they're going to be, what their options are for taking classes in high school. We'll help families navigate the financial aid process. We will help students find scholarship opportunities as they're going through the college application process. And of course, we'll help them with the nuts and bolts of the application. So that's essays, the application itself. They're submitting those applications side by side with us. So we're proofing those and reviewing those and helping them with the essays and the editing process, and then helping them with applications. And then for the seniors right now, our class of 25 that we're working with, we're working with them to help them make their final decision. Some of them need more help with that than others, which is great. And we're helping them work through that process, helping families decipher the financial aid letters that they're going to get from the colleges, answering those questions, and then helping them as they make that transition from high school to college. So I think for us, what makes us unique is just that comprehensive nature of what we provide that I don't think anyone else does anywhere in the country, not just here in Southwest Ohio, but I think nationwide.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, very much kind of soup to nuts support as you're going through that whole journey with your student, with your
Right.
child, right?
Yep.
So, and before we started, you and I spoke, and you often have webinars and informational sessions you host as well. Maybe take a second and talk about those.
Yeah, we do offer different things to the public. I mean, the best place to learn about what we're doing is on our website, class101.com, Dayton OH South. Coming up in April, we are hosting what we call college bound seminars. So this is something that is open to the public for families with students who are high school seniors that are making that transition to college. They either have chosen their school, they're close to choosing their school. May 1st is the typical deadline to enroll in your college. So as students and families are making that transition, especially if this is their first student heading off to college, there's a lot to think about. And I think there's some things that families don't think about. And those are things like around some of the legal stuff. So we actually have an attorney come in to that seminar and talk about, you know, there's life insurance issues, there's estate planning issues, there are rights and responsibilities that the student has now as they go to college. They're an adult. They're 18. And even if they're going to turn 18 in college, they're still considered an adult by the college. So that's a different thing to be thinking about. We also have a financial advisor who comes in and he will talk about, how to help pay for all this, right? And some of the different strategies that can be used, how to access 529s, what they can be used for. So those are coming up in April, April 13th and April 15th here in Springboro at the Performing Arts Center. You register on our website, class101.com/Dayton OH South. And like I said, it is open to the public.
Okay, great. So hey, let's shift gears a little bit now. Talk about hey running the business, right? So what have been your keys? Hey, you were a startup, roughly 2018. What have been your keys to driving growth? What marketing strategies really seem to work best for you?
Yeah. Yeah. So, and of course for us, it's kind of in two pieces, right? Because initially it was my wife, Karen, doing the whole thing with, she was meeting with the students, she was doing the marketing, things like that. The biggest thing for us really has been social media and word of mouth in terms of growing the business. Social media has just been absolutely key for us, and being able to target the right places, right? Most of our audience, if you think about our target demographic in terms of who makes the decision, it's going to be, a mom primarily, mid 40s to mid 50s, right, who has a teenage child. They're on Facebook, they're on Instagram, right? Those are the key, and Facebook would probably be the most predominant for that audience. Instagram more with the young people, of course, right? So that is a big part of the strategy, and I think probably what, you know, especially for me, the learning curve there was you've got to be on social every day, right? You have to be posting new content on a daily basis, and that's hard. That is really hard to do, and it takes a lot of time, and obviously creativity. I am not creative. I'm the back office guy, right? That's where my expertise lies in terms of the accounting and bookkeeping. My wife is the creative person, so that's been a nice mix. But that's what she's been doing on the social side is just generating that amazing content and keeping it fresh and keeping it relevant and keeping it out there. Now we're a franchise, so you do get some assistance from corporate, um, but for us, it's been having to tailor it for our local market because there's definitely a local factor in what we do from a business standpoint that might be different than other businesses, because the seasonality of things are different here than they might be in other states. And we get this as we work with and talk to our fellow franchisees that own Class 101s around the country. It's about 60 Class 101s nationwide. And certainly it is driven by the local market. So that's an aspect of it where, yeah, we do get some support from corporate, but most of it's got to be stuff that we have to do on our own to take into account of that local factor. And then there's a word of mouth and serving the student. I mean, for us, it's making sure we overserve our students, because referrals, and word of mouth and getting siblings is huge part of our business. And so that's really the other factor.
So business ownership, right, comes with twists and turns,
Right.
usually some peaks and some valleys. So walk us through a past challenge that you guys had to overcome, and what did you learn from that?
Right. Yeah, I think there's probably a couple things there. One, what did I learn? I think what surprised me the most in owning my own business is the amount of work and hours. It never ends. I mean, I worked in software sales. I worked for some huge, very successful software companies. I was very blessed to have an opportunity to do that. And there are always days, right? I mean, there are days when you're putting in a 20-hour day, right? You're trying to close a deal, you're doing something like that. But there are a lot of days when you don't have to do that. But in this, owning your own business, no, it's always long days every day, and you're doing it 6 or 7 days a week, and it never ends. I think that was a big learning curve for me. And so there's obviously you have to adapt to that. But that also relates to the idea that if someone is starting a business, um, you got to be all in. And we don't have a safety net or a parachute. Where our entire family relies on this business. We're in, both of us, our health insurance, our benefits, we pay employees, we provide them with those things. It all comes from this business. Um, and I believe that to grow a business, you have to be all in. Now, people have different goals, right? Someone might start a business on their own and their spouse isn't going to be involved, and that's great. But
Mhm.
that, again, there's no backup plan, right? I mean, I don't agree with Mark Cuban with everything, but I do think he's right. You can't have a backup plan when you're going to start a business. You've got to go all in. And so one of the hard things for us was as we were growing the business, and both of us were when I started going in full time, and we're both full time, is we had to pay ourselves last, and so because the we had to make sure that you know everything went into the business to grow the business, to be able to hire people, provide them benefits. We pay our people well because when you find someone good, you want them to stay. But that means we have to make sacrifices on our end um, for a long time. And so, we were fortunate enough that we had savings that we could use to support that. Um, it can be tough to watch that dwindle, right?
Mhm.
Uh, but we knew what the plan was. So, and now we're at the point where we're starting to be able to uh, pay ourselves more to be able to, get back to the standard of living without having to rely on the savings, right? Which is a nice place to be, but that's a tough, that 3 or 4 years or whatever it might be, depending on the business, is tough to do. But I think that's how you grow a business to be successful is you've got to go all in, you've got to make those sacrifices.
You mentioned that transition. You came from kind of a little bit more of a kind of a corporate kind of role setting, and
Right.
now and hey, the workload of being an
Yeah.
owner and it just never ends. So how have you adapted to that? What are changes you've had to put in place to deal with that, whether it's mindset or even just kind of tactical, how you manage your day to day?
Yeah, it's both, right? It is a mindset shift. Which, just takes time, I think, to be able to work through that. Obviously, it helps if you love what you're doing. The opportunity for us to work with young people and help them find their future is very rewarding. And so that certainly helps get through some of those challenges and frustrations around the hours and the workload and things like that. And I think it helps you make that mindset shift a little bit quicker. Um, I do think there, certainly some time management things on my part, and kind of working through with my partner, in this case, Karen, right? Obviously, there's additional challenges with being a spouse and a business partner that, might not be the case with people that don't do that. So obviously, working through some of that, but getting to that place where, for me, um, my sweet spot of the day is early in the morning, where I can have that time to plan for the day and the week, and to get everything planned out. Um, and so for me, my day is more that early, 7 a.m. starting, right. I'm obviously not meeting with students at 7, but I will be later in the day. But that's where I take that time to make sure
Mhm.
that, I've got things figured out. I've taken care of the back office stuff and those types of things. And then for me, I'm probably, ending my day. I'm definitely ending my day earlier than Karen, where she's going to do more of kind of her social media work and her vision and planning. She does more of the vision aspect of the business. So she does that more in the morning. But she is working a little bit later, right? So there's kind of that kind of trade-off, if you will, coming up with that routine that works. It's start and stop, right? It's you trial and error, I should say, to get
Mhm.
there. But that's we're in a pretty good place with that. Now, obviously, stuff comes up, right? Um, and for us, the fall is our busiest time because that's when we're helping the seniors with their applications. So just, there is a seasonality to that, right? So we know, hey, there's going to be 2 months where we're flat out, right? We're not we're working 6, 7 days a week, 15, 16 hours a day, more if we
Mhm.
have to get things done. But we know that's part of it, right? And then we know right now, right, we're able to control our time more and do other things. So
So thanks for sharing that journey from startup to getting the profitability and building kind of the initial team. What's the current challenge you have in front of you?
Um, I think probably I would say Um, Obviously, there's for us because we're we bring in new students every month, right? And then our seniors will graduate and they move on. So it's an ongoing challenge of just, maintaining that growth. We'll keep a student, for 2 or 3 years, um, and then they move on. And so we've always got to be filling that pipeline,
Mhm.
um, which, might be different than other service businesses where, they could have ongoing business from a client for years and years potentially. So we don't have that. Obviously, families is part of it, siblings, so we can bring in younger siblings. So that goes back to that, making sure that we're over serving our clients so that they will want to bring their younger child to us. But we still got, we do start at zero every month from a sales perspective. Obviously, we're obviously revenue is the key, but for us, in order to generate the revenue we need every month, we've got to be bringing in new students every single month. So that's just an ongoing challenge. So figuring out ways that we can continue to do that to maintain the growth that we need and maintain the revenue that we need, is one key aspect of it, I think. And then I think, there is that, hey, as the business has matured, we've got a little bit more name recognition than we would have had when we started. So how do you then continue to, um, you know, uh, grow your brand recognition, and things like that, right? So that's, I think, the other challenge as we are a little bit more established and a little bit more mature, in our local market. So obviously not resting on our laurels, but also, we've got to continue to get the name out there, in different ways. And so figuring out different ways and creative ways to do that.
Mhm. So Tony, what's your vision longer term for the business? Whether it's 5, 10 years, whatever your horizon is.
Yeah, I think, it interesting question. I think for us, we are at this point now where we are, since we are a little bit more established. I think it's for us, it'll be, hey, managing maybe a little bit slower growth than what we had, where I'm not expecting 30% revenue growth every year like we had, in the beginning. Um, but still obviously revenue growth. Looking maybe to do more partnerships with high schools. So we do have a partnership, um, with Alter High School, which is a local private school here in the area, and a couple other small ones. So we're looking to maybe expand that, as a way to continue to grow the business would be something that we would like to do. But for us, it's obviously just doing those things while continuing to overserve our students, provide that level of service that has helped us get to this point and keep it going. And I think that's, I don't know if that gets overlooked, but it can be overlooked where it's like, I don't want to forget our core, right? For us, for me, one of my takeaways from the corporate world was, there's probably 3 to 5 critical success factors that you can focus on in your work every day, right? Identify what those are and keep those top of mind, and everything else has got to go to the side. And that's true here for this business. So I don't ever want to lose sight of that. And that's hard to do, can be hard to do. So that really for us is, keep focus on that, and the future takes care of itself at that point, in my mind, right? If we're focusing on those things, certainly, yes, we plan out, we probably plan out a year or so, is what our planning is, probably not the 3 to 5 year plan. But if I'm taking care of those critical things every day, and we are making sure that we're not, that we are looking for new ways to get the brand recognition we need, then that 3 to 5 year stuff takes care of itself.
You already mentioned building a team. You've had added employees over the journey and some of your keys there. Are there any other things you'd emphasize to other business owners out there? Hey, these have been essential to us with building a strong team.
Yeah, I think one of the things I think has been the same and has helped me because I did a lot of experience hiring and building teams in the past. That doesn't change, right? Whether you're working for a big company or a small company, the challenges around hiring and retention for me are the same as they were when I started in my corporate life more than 20 years ago. Um, because we're dealing with people, right? And so, yes, there's technologies that didn't exist that can make that easier to do potentially. Um, but at the end of the day, that's the stuff that's the same. So I think it's, investing in your people, which has been really key for us. Um, I think I said we do I think we do pay our people competitively, and we do provide benefits. I provide health insurance for those that want it. I provide retirement benefits if they want to take advantage of that. Even though, yeah, we're small, I have 5 employees, but that's something that I think is helped keep valued employees here. Um, the other thing too, right? Yeah, and this isn't new, right? Is you've always got to be talking to people, um, you know, whatever cliche you want to use, keeping your bench full, those types of things. Absolutely, right? Because even people who've been with us a long time, stuff happens, and you don't know what's going to happen in terms of their goals and where they are in life. And so even people that might be happy and working for you and experienced and fulfilled, something happens and something changes. So you've got to be prepared. So we always have a job posted. I am always willing to talk, even if I'm not ready to hire. I will always talk to people that we think might be good fits, and we'll tell them that, right? So if I bring someone in, say, hey, we're not necessarily looking to fill an opening right now, but I will happily talk to people that I think could be good fits, to see what might come down the road. And that has worked well for us. But it's still always a challenge. It always will be a challenge. It's always going to be as difficult today as it was 10, 15 years ago, and it's going to be the same in my mind. I don't think it's ever going to get any easier. Um, uh, but that's, obviously a key part of our business, right? Is these are people that are meeting with our students and our families. So we need to invest the time and effort in doing that. And obviously in the training and those types of things. And we try to provide flexibility in terms of work-life balance and those types of things, right? As well. So those are things that are all important that we try to pay attention to every day.
Hey, thank you for sharing this, numerous vital points for those business owners who are listening, especially those newer in their journey with this as well. So Tony, our time flies
Yeah.
today. So as we look to wrap up here, what are the best ways for folks to learn more about Class 101 and stay connected and follow what you're doing here in the region?
Sure. So, we're Class 101 Dayton OH South. That's our website. So class101.com is the corporate website. You can do a search by zip code to find us, or our local website is class101.com/Dayton OH South. That will connect you with us, and you can fill out a form on there that will come to me, where we can definitely talk about setting up a time to meet or have a conversation on the phone, whatever might make sense. Certainly, we're on Facebook as well. We're on Instagram. So those are always ways that you can get in touch with us as well. And we would want to have you have the student and the family come in for a meeting, a consultation meeting, free 1 hour consultation. We go through the entire process with the student and the family, so they can decide if it makes sense to work with us. We do want the student to be part of that journey from the beginning. That's really important to us, that we're empowering the student to be able to be more invested in their future and the decisions that they're going to make. And so that's always going to be an important part of what we do.
Okay. So Tony, final question. What are you inspired by today?
Just the chance to work with these young people. It's amazing. It's hard. It's hard work. And it's tough from a generational aspect. We could spend probably a whole other podcast on that. Um, and obviously, the old people like me, right? Hey, yeah, the younger, but even for us, being doing this for almost 7 years, we've seen a change from the high school students we work with in the class of 2019, 2020, 21 to the current, and the younger kids we're working with, the freshmen, sophomores. Changes, right? Pandemic, huge impact on learning, and things like that. So for us, what inspires us is to try to help these students and their families. We've always loved working with young people, and we've always found, really stress the importance of education, obviously for our own kids, but also for others. And so just being able to work with young people and help them realize their future, and help them find a path is just what really helps us stay inspired and is inspiring, and has been the most rewarding aspect of what we do.
Great. I love hearing that. Just people, you still have, you can sense your passion for what you do. Seven for you now, 5 years in to running the business and recognizing the impact it makes for families and young folks as well. So Tony, thank you for sharing your story and more about Class 101. To our viewers, we appreciate you joining us here today. I hope you took good notes. You can replay and catch some others because great learnings, not only from someone making a transition from a corporate world into business ownership, but also for parents out there who are trying to think about next steps with their young kids growing up. It happens fast, and there's a lot of questions that you have to juggle going forward. So I encourage you to check Tony and the Class 101 team out, as he mentioned there. So if you're new to the series, we appreciate you hitting the subscribe button so you can also receive future messages from other entrepreneurs like you heard from Tony DeRosa here today as well. And also encourage you to hit the like button, as that helps us with getting the word out as well. So thank you all and hope you all have a terrific day.